Seconds. And we are live. So we are starting our, it's like on television, second season of the World Mime Chat. And we are starting with the third USA Women in Mime that has a title today, Strong Visions, Successful Ventures. So I'm really happy that we're starting, that actually we have more and more members from the United States, and especially women members, and that's really great. Yeah, I talked to some of our members and members of the board. We are so happy to have people from the United States and to see what's happening on that continent. In North America with Mime, we didn't have that much information. All of us, well, most of us, we know either personally or through internet, Greg Goldstone and some other people, but we actually didn't know how spread Mime is in the United States and how many wonderful women we have in our art in North America, and that's really great. So thank you very much for being with us, for sharing your thoughts, experience, and your creativity with us and our viewers. We are live on Facebook. Today is Sunday, 5 o'clock in Europe, 5 o'clock Paris time or Belgrade time. It's early morning in the United States. Sorry about that. Just to say to the people that are watching us, we will continue doing this every Saturday. You would be able to see our chats like this one today, but also we started before New Year's, we started presenting our members to the wider audience. So we have chats also where we present our members and what they do. Hopefully with this, when this pandemic is over, that will help them generate maybe some business, which would be great. Arts is wonderful, but it should go hand in hand with business. So again, thank you very much. And Catherine will continue. I will leave you all in her wonderful hands, and see you in an hour or two. Thank you again. Cheers.
Thank you, Marco. All right, welcome everybody. This is a group of women that are professional performers and artists and use the art of mime or have used it in their work. And I'm so happy to have gotten involved with the World Mime organization and having these talks and learning some of the history that's in the United States and how varied and similar it is. And we decided to just keep on having these talks because women in the arts, and diversity is very important. So let's start by introductions. I'm Catherine Gasta. I'm in New York City, an actor in mime. I currently don't have a company, and I worked with Irina Tsikurishvili to learn all of the mime that I know, and her husband, Patha Tsikurishvili. And so I'm just moderating. So we have Deborah Langerman, and she is in Indiana. Irina Tsikurishvili, she's in, you're in Virginia?
Yeah.
Virginia. Michelle Matlock, you're in Washington State, right? Right. And Amanda Faison, you're in?
East Orange. I'm in West Orange, but I mime in East Orange, New Jersey.
New Jersey. Okay, so we're close by. I'm in New York City, so wonderful. So I just want to go around right now and hear the highlights of everyone's education one by one and your career, and just start with that. I don't think mine is that important right now because there's other forums to look at. And again, everybody that's watching, there are forums in the history that you can watch. So please do that. There's a lot of very interesting talks. So without further ado, let's see who's, okay, so yes, Amanda, you would be first alphabetically. Let's do that.
Good morning, everyone. First off, I want to just thank you for this invitation. It truly is an honor to speak on my mime experience in this platform. So my name's Amanda Faison. I am a member of the Quiet Storm Mime Ministry, and the ministry is a part of my church, Living Water Christian Center Church, which is located in East Orange, New Jersey. It's a part of our arts ministry there. I've been miming for about 19 years. I started when I was 6. But my church had a mime ministry prior to me joining, and that started in the 90s. But Quiet Storm, we developed our name after I joined the group. I want to say maybe about 5 years into the group, we developed the name Quiet Storm because we gained a lot of support, following. We kind of started, making a name for ourselves. So we felt like it was important that we established a group name. So that's a little bit of my history with mime within my church. But since I was very young, a lot of the training that I received, I'm still, learning a lot of things as I go on, getting refreshers, because I was so young when I started learning about mime and the artistry, especially mime within the church. But yeah, so I've been miming for about 19 years. Right now, we are starting a new mime ministry with our younger generation. I want to say like middle school girls as well. So that's where our ministry is going right now. But we have been doing this for a very long time. And by the grace of God, we have gained a lot of skill, experience, and opportunities to mime at different events and different platforms.
That's wonderful. Awesome. And you said your training growing up, you were also training in the performing arts, or you just...
Yeah, I have done that as well. I danced since I was 3 years old, all the way up to high school. But I also am a part of the praise dance ministry at my church as well. So performing arts has always been a huge part of who I am. In high school, I was a part of a dance company. So mine was, like another venture, another aspect of performing arts that I really dive deep into, and it's honestly one of my favorites.
Right, I'm sure it's very impactful. I watched some of the videos, and it just seems the fervor in the room gets more and more intense with the performance. And I'm sure we can all talk about that audience energy that we get during mime, and we can talk about that. Are you about finished?
Yeah.
With your summation? Okay, great. And then, right, so Deborah, please. You are next alphabetically.
Well, I am also the senior member of this particular panel. I started doing mime when I was a young girl. That's one of the visual aids that I have. There's me and my brothers doing a backyard circus. And of course, I had my little ballet tutu on, and we charged money. And when I worked with children for many years, I would bring this photo, nicely framed, into the workshop, because the children at the end would always ask me, how did you get started doing mime? And I would always respond, well, all children the world over do mime when they play. It's a natural extension of human expression. And I used to ask the kids, how many of you pretend you're going up in a spaceship, or you're the major player in a baseball game or whatever? And they can all say, well, we all pretend when we play. So I got started very young in theater, but my professional career spanned 40 years. I started learning at the University of Illinois when I was 18 with Claude Kipnis, who was a student of Marcel Marceau. And originally we started in classic mime, and his students formed the hardcore mime troupe because we were the hardcore of his class. That when we became professional and we performed in Chicago at the Body Politic Theater, that was 1972. And our name then became the United Mime Workers. And the United Mime Workers were together for 15 years, and we performed all over the world. We did a 6-country tour of Europe when I was 24 and 25 with original works. We were behind the Iron Curtain, so we went to Romania and Poland and learned about the mime scene over there at that time, which of course was during the communist era. So it was very interesting going through Checkpoint Charlie and in Berlin and meeting, some people had never met Americans before because of the Iron Curtain. The United Mime Workers performed throughout Central America. We did a tour of Cuba. We did a 6-city tour of Romania. I mean, we literally were all over. And what we specialized in was something very different than I've seen any other mimes do. And that is, we took political material, subject matter that we were interested in, and then we would look at the form of what we were doing. So we were very experimental. And so we had new expressions of political and economic theory, which we also studied extensively. So one of our best performances ever was at an economic conference in Massachusetts, and it was a depiction of the capitalist system using no words, and how the capitalist system controls and manipulates the everyday worker. And that was performed. So we kind of bounced around between political theater festivals, experimental theater festivals, and political or social people's theater festivals. So we kind of made the rounds between all those different. The United Mime Workers disbanded in 1985. And then I went on to have a solo career. I got trained as a children's librarian and worked a lot with children and was an outreach person, did a ton of storytelling and puppetry, you know, everything that goes with working with children. And then I had my own child and we moved to Indiana. And then I continued as a solo performer for the rest of my career under the theater company Once Upon a Time, Once Upon a Mime. And I worked primarily with young people and children. And yet I did have some performances. I revived an old performance of mine called The President's New Clothes, which was a reimagining of the old Hans Christian Andersen fable, the Emperor's New Clothes. And we performed it during the Nixon, Ford, Carter, Reagan administrations. And then we took a break, and then I revived it for Bush #2, right before Obama was elected. So this was a political piece about the failure of our particular institution of the presidency. And we were able to change certain things depending on who the particular president was at the time. So that was done in I'm trying to remember the type of festivals, people theater festivals that occur around the world. Anyway, I retired in 2008. So it's already been 12 years since I've been retired. As many of you probably will find out, doing mime for 40 years and moving your neck and doing things in various ways is not very good for your body. So I'm suffering from lots of arthritis. And also I had a hip replacement. And then the other thing that I think that maybe we can touch on later, being a woman in this profession, as the only woman in my family of origin, it was up to me to take care of mentally ill and aging people in my family for many, many years while I was trying to perform, have a career as a mime, and raise my child. And I think this is not something that's unique in the profession of mime. It occurs across professions for women. We get stuck with a lot of the caregiving and a lot of the household duties. And eventually, you know, one thing has to give way to another. And yeah, so I've been retired from mime, but I've been active in conversing with my friends. The best friends that I made in that 40 years and in that international tour was a group of theater performers in Denmark. So I travel back to Denmark on a regular basis, about once a year, and I contribute to their performances and look at what they do. But family and medical issues, you know, really, mime is kind of, it was my entire professional career, which there are very few of us that can say that they earned their living as a mime for 40 years. So that's me. Hi.
Well, welcome. Thank you. That's definitely impressive. And it's an excellent segue, actually, to our wonderful guest, Michelle Matlock. You're next on our alphabetical order. Irina is trying to get back in. Marco, if you hear me, Irina is trying to get back in. So Michelle, welcome. And
wow, thank you.
Yeah,
it's
she
a pleasure.
has a lot of time on with Cirque du Soleil, and like,
Yeah.
You could speak to what Deborah was just saying, probably, as far as the amount of performing you did with them. It's quite fascinating. I tried to, well, I auditioned for them several times, nothing happened. So I'm so happy to meet someone that directly worked with them, and commend you on your wonderful character. So take it away on your, sorry.
Thank you. Sure. That is an amazing part of my story, I think. Yeah. So just disclaimer, it is wonderful to be here and among such wonderful talent. Disclaimer, great. And I'm loving to be here. I just have never, I don't identify as a mime.
Right.
And I don't know. I did, but I've been informed that some of the work that I have done over the years is actually mime. So this is a learning experience for me, and it's a pleasure to be here and hear this fascinating stories and to dive into what that means for me. So you're all are witnessing a kind of like a new birth for me. So
well, we discussed that the group of women that are running these chats, we talked a lot about who to invite and what. Not everybody is a mime here per se. Like Irina and her husband use it in their work, but they do not call themselves mimes. So, right. But I think, like you just said, parts of your performance were definitely in the realm of mime, and any silent acting is also in the world of pantomime. So we are happy to have, clown. I guess we would stop it at stilt walkers and aerialists, because it's a little different, but definitely I think clowning is right next door to miming.
Yes,
especially
very good.
Gig artists. But let me let you continue on your amazing story.
So well, I'm from Tacoma, Washington, which is where I am right now. I grew up here. I went to university here, Western Washington University, for about 3 years. Then I got accepted into a conservatory in New York called the National Shakespeare Conservatory. So I went out there and got classically trained. And when I graduated from there, I was in New York, just, trying to figure it out, wanting to be an actor. One of my best friends decided that we should be clowns, uh, and decided that we should start telling stories by clowning and teaching ourselves to juggle and do these different clown skills. Well, we got pulled into a program that Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines was creating called the Cruise Comics. And we got dragged down there to learn clowning the Ringling style way. They were a bunch of ex-Ringling clowns that were hired to create this clown program. So that was probably, my first introduction with that miming. I worked closely with a mime, like a mime, someone that really considered himself a mime there. And that was fascinating. I had never seen that art form before, and he's very talented. And came out of there, came back to New York City. I worked with Circus the Muck, which is a circus in New York. I worked with the Bindlestiff Family Circus, and I worked with the Big Apple Circus in New York for about 4.5 years in their clown care unit, all while developing my own work, using theater and clown and mime, apparently. And then through that show, doing that show all over the world, and a Cirque du Soleil casting came in to one of my shows in New York, and then asked me to audition for them. And I did that. I actually flew back home here to Tacoma to audition for Cirque, because this is where they were at the time auditioning. And that went really well. They didn't have any work for me, but about 4 years later, they called me to create a role for their new show that was coming out. So flew off to Montreal and had that amazing experience. And yes, I mean, that lots of stuff in my solo show. The Mime Project has some miming storytelling in it, and the whole Cirque show. I mean, we're speaking a bug language, and we're physically telling the story. So it's pretty much all mime, I suppose. And who would have thought? Like, I spent 10 years on the road with that show, and I took my final bow in 2018. Now I'm back home, and I've started a live entertainment production company called Circle Up Productions. We've been doing a ton of stuff online, and I have a lot of performance education. I'm teaching solo performance, clown. I do a power of play workshop that's pretty popular right now, where it's clowning, acting. I mix it all together. I mix it all up. But yeah, after 10 years of silent performing, miming, apparently, it's interesting because I was trained, with like Shakespeare and scripts and all sorts of plays and stuff. So it was interesting to just dive into something where is all physicality and storytelling through physical comedy and physical movement. But what an amazing experience to roll on the road with Cirque du Soleil like that, and be with such incredible performers. My partners were from Montreal, Quebec, not Montreal, Quebec, and then from Belgium, both French speaking clowns. And then here's a American Black girl in the middle that was kind of dragged kicking and screaming into the clown world. So it's been an amazing experience, and this is now part of that.
Yeah. I mean, I can't tell. I am so excited to meet you and just be in this little virtual room with you, because that story, almost every time I auditioned 4 times to Cirque du Soleil, they like bring up the story, your story. They say, or someone like you in their shows,
wow.
like this person auditioned, several years went by, and look what happened. You know,
Right.
we never know what's going to happen. Their auditions are very friendly, right? Did you?
Oh, their auditions are incredible. Like that audition, I walked out of that audition. First of all, it was a 2-day audition. And that audition, it's one of those auditions where it starts with like 50 people, then 30, then 20, then 10, then 5. And then there was 3 of us at the end. And I walked out of that audition a better performer. It was like a workshop. It was like a
Yes,
workshop. But
agree.
that's true. They said, they even said there, you know, like they do all this measurement and you do all these tests and they make a file. And they said, look, there's nothing at this moment, but who knows? It could be like 3 weeks. It could be 6 months. Now, I didn't even know really what Cirque du Soleil was at the time. Like, I mean, I think I heard of it, but I couldn't certainly afford to go to their shows at that time. I think it was my other friends that were like, you got an audition with Cirque du Soleil, you know, it was like, and I was like, yeah, is that mean? What does that mean? Like, does it mean something?
And I've always wondered, would you say it's anything like this phrase? It's kind of like joining the army. Like, that's it. Your own life is like on pause and you are in a separate universe.
Yes,
with it.
Absolutely. It's like going away, and we actually make jokes about that on tour, because you're shuffled along. There's chefs, there's, you know, you're shuffled along and you just fall in line and do the work and you're there. I mean, what I loved about it is that after being such an independent performing artist in New York for so many years and doing everything and working with Circus Amok and the Bindle Stiff, where, you know, like you go and you like build everything and you like do everything and, you know,
You get your back broken.
yeah, it's like you get a major
a lot of schlepping.
Yes.
Lot of schlepping. Oh my God.
There's none of that at Cirque. Like, you're hired as a performer and that's what you do. You do your job, and I was really appreciative for that. To have that experience. Like, I show up doing the thing that I was hired to do and the thing that I love to do, and that's all I had to do. It spoiled me.
I want to interrupt, and this is also to entice people to look you up and look up the look of the ladybug. What was it like with those boots? Just real quick before we go to Irina, like these boots, I was like, those are either very fun or not fun. Because I was a field hockey goalie with big pads that I had to wear, and I was just wondering briefly, those boots that you wore.
Those boots were fantastic, man. I called those my disco boots. And they made them look like kind of platform, but they weren't. They were a flat dance boot in there. So I was able to run, jump, roll, dip,
cool.
and all that stuff. So I loved those boots. Made me feel like a drag queen.
I mean, it's a phenomenal look. Just a wonderful character.
They did a great job with the look.
Yeah, thank you for that. Now, are you pretty much finished with your summation?
Oh yeah, man. I did that for nearly 10 years. It was amazing. And I was like, time to go, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and now you have so much to offer. Much to offer.
Right.
And I'm so happy that you're, you know, in your original community too. That's amazing.
That's right.
Now, this is a nice segue because Irina, I don't know if she'll get to it, but they have their own story with Cirque du Soleil, the Tsikurishvili.
Oh, yes.
That I was around for. They might have long forgotten that story because I've been away from them for 15 years, but I feel like they're my brother and sister creatively or family. Not that I'm equal, so okay. But this is Irina Tsikurishvili, one of the main people I trained with. And Irina, please take it away with your summation, your highlights.
Hi, my name is Irina Tsikurishvili. I am a co-founder, associate artistic director resident choreographer of Kinetic Theater. I graduated from professional ballet and ended up in the pantomime, Tbilisi State Pantomime Theater with Irina Tsikurishvili where I met my husband. And basically we came in United States in 1996, 95. And we came here without language. Hello, America. Of course, I had ballet background, so I was teaching ballet. My husband had a little bit cultural shock because of, you know, what to do in this country, not knowing language. And basically, we create like a solo performance for two of us. And we were performing everywhere, on the streets, in restaurants, you name it, where we could, wherever. And it's ended up that we find out that there is not much reputation about white face. Although Tbilisi State Pantomime Theater doesn't have white face. We really were performing dramatical pantomime. But here we thought like, you know, we'll go more classical pantomime and we're gonna more attract people like in Europe, you know, it's so much culture of the mime. You know, Marcel Marceau, of course, well known in America too, but as a value, as a mime, doesn't have same as in Europe, for example. So we find out that people were more looking to us like a beggars more, you know, like in restaurants one time they perform, oh, they love it. They love it. But like we performed the restaurant and somebody called my husband and offered his plate, basically, because they felt like we are so hungry actors that, you know, they felt so pity for us. And it was kind of a little bit of feeling like, you know, we are not that poor. So to perform in the drinking area where it's people drunk and the entertainment for them. And we started thinking to create theater. So pantomime theater, but we felt like, you know what, pantomime, it's too early or not well known in America. It has to be somewhere like lift away a little bit and create a little bit more Georgian way, dramatical pantomime, let's put that way. And we started looking for actors, but what we find out, there is not really pantomime schools around here and not much movement around here. Here's the two categories. Mostly it's either, I mean, I'm talking about DC area. I know in California, there is some movements going on, but in DC area, nothing. There is two categories. Either you are a dramatical actor who knows how to speak, or there is musical theater, which is you have dancers and singers and actors. So, and we're starting to do audition and searching for actors who can move. So certainly at least a little bit of dance background or a little bit of movement. They have some, you know, unique movement. So they're going to be teachable in the art form of mime. And that's where we start. We had in the beginning few actors, and Catherine Gasta is included in it. That and the first show we did, it was Little Tragedy, right, Catherine?
Right,
So,
right. And I mean, I think it's good to point out here, right at this point in your story, that before I arrived, you had some students tell you that were working with you and tell you that King Lear could never be done without words.
Right, right. Because we had students.
You were American.
Yes, we had students, and we wanted to King Lear to create right away big scandal here, and we had students who like, no, King Lear without words, no, we don't want that. You know, it's not gonna happen. And they basically talked out, you know, from the idea of that, which is Kinetic today, well known for making Shakespeare without words. And
how many
we've done
productions?
King Lear.
13 productions?
Yes, we've done mostly, yeah. So we've done so many Shakespeares, including King Lear, which is, we got 15 Helen Hayes nominations for only King Lear. and we were nominated in every category what was in the, So basically, we are training our actors, but we are physical theater. Why we physical theater? Yes, of course, we're training them in mime form. And besides that, we train them in acrobatics, in the dance, basically, we are trying to synthesize all art forms. We do speak sometimes on the stage. We do clowning, like a King Lear was done in the clowning way. But in the stylized clowns. We were more like a Fellini style clowns. And yeah, so basically that's where we are. And of course, pantomime is a big part of the Cinetic.
Well, wonderful. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you finished?
Yeah, I'm finished. This short introduction of.
Right. I mean, I kind of interrupted. I feel bad. Oh, Deborah has a question.
No,
Yes.
well, I just wanted to say that I forgot to say that I did kabuki theater, which is Japanese theater.
Yes, yes.
And I wanted to say something to Irina about that. Here's a picture of me in full kabuki dress with my teacher.
That's beautiful.
But my teacher, Shozo Sato, who did some mime pieces for us too, and we toured around to various Japanese communities. He went on to direct Shakespeare plays done in kabuki style. And he won a lot of awards. They were fantastic because both kabuki theater and Shakespeare theater were contemporary theaters. Kabuki was in Japan and Shakespeare was in the West. But they have the same kind of sensibility of drama. And when you put the two together and you use the kabuki dress and the kabuki form and everything, it was a hybrid that was fantastic. And he did many plays, many different Shakespeare plays, Lady Macbeth. It was just fantastic. So, by the way, I loved seeing the videos of your work, Irina. It was just fantastic. A combination that I hadn't really seen before, and it was great. So.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you so
everybody
much.
watching, keep in mind the links to the artist's work are in the original Facebook invitation, so you can watch and research. We're not doing a lot of visuals during this talk, but really diving into who these women are and how they use this art form and the impact. So that leads us to the second part of the talk, which is I'd like to go around and talk about, we're not all calling ourselves mime on this mime on this panel, but we all have experience with the expression of silent acting and the impact of the audience filling in the information as we perform and becoming extra invested in it, in this story that's nonverbal, or in the case of other clown performance, a gibberish language. But everybody in the audience can, almost like when you're watching a cartoon, laugh at the correct times because of the choreography and the timing and the world that's been created. So I want to take this next section and hear from everybody how you feel about the definition of mime and working with it, the art of it in your work, either long time ago or recently, it doesn't matter. It just, that's the next part of our, panel discussion. So Deborah, let's have you begin, if you don't mind.
No, that's fine. The main thing I would have to say to that is that this discussion has been going on for centuries. And it really annoys me on the one hand that it's still going on, because this panel is an example of the fact that movement and expressive theater and mime is a very broad category. And we did lots of experiments with how we presented things on stage, with the format. The way we would compose things is that you start with an idea of something you want to say to the audience, and then you've got another area. What techniques do we want to experiment with? Do we want to use ballet? Do we want to use clowning? In the one piece that we did on the economy, do you want to separate the object from the human being and have the object circulate? You know, there were all kinds of technical. And then the third set of discussion was, how is the audience going to perceive this? And we talked about perception and how it's going to look, because that's the third element you need always, is the audience and their involvement. And when those three things came together, then we thought, this is a piece that's worth doing. We're not just using some old form or repeating what Marcel Marceau did or some clown that I saw sometime in the past. And when we would go to mime festivals, we would always get people saying to us, you can't do that. That's not mime. And they would all be talking about the definition of mime and what is mime and everything. And we were just like, stop it. This is art. Art can be anything. That's why you create something. And if you want to take elements from mime, if you want to take it from ballet, if you want to be part of Cirque du Soleil, I mean, we used sound in our performances. We used language that we took out of people's mouths and put on the TV, and then we would mime what was coming off the TV, and we'd coordinate our movements to it. So, you know, and if you look at the history of mime, kabuki theater, and I did a whole piece for kids, an hour-long piece about the history of mime. And I would start with the cavemen, and I'd have the kids come up from the audience and show how they would act out the day's hunt, you know, and I put little antlers on the deers, and the other kids were dressed. And then we move up from the cavemen into, you know, Greek and Roman drama. And people couldn't hear back then. There were no microphones. So all the things were done through gesture. And then he took them through clowning and silent film. And they're all related. They're all gestural theater. And the point of making up something new is not to repeat what has been done, unless you're highlighting that particular art form, say in kabuki theater, for example. But if you're going to create, I don't think we should be worried so much about whether or not we're a mime or a clown or a children's performance or a teaching artist or all of that stuff. It's a waste of time, in my opinion. It's just like, let's create something, you know, and call it what you will. And if it's good, people will relate to it. And I've been all over the world and seen a million different silent performances, and some were brilliant and some were copycats because they wanted to stick to this strict definition of what mime is. I see it as having a very broad tent and a very long history. Anyway.
Yeah, I agree with that, absolutely. Amanda, your mime, the ministry mime work is, so fascinating to me. And every time I see footage, I've never seen it live, but every time I see a footage or YouTube of anything, you know, connected with ministry mime, it reminds me of the time in my youth group, we went to church across the street. I'm Unitarian, so we went to different church congregations in the area of Philadelphia and, you know, witnessed, a service to educate us. And I'm really lucky. And one of them was a Baptist church in Philadelphia, and seeing a full band where the pulpit should be was just a phenomenal experience. And then we went to a synagogue, and I mean, it was just a very good experience for that. But please speak to us about your relationship with mime, specifically in performance, and what it means to you in your work?
Absolutely. So Mime for us is very unique because it's part entertainment, but for us, majority of it is ministry. And with that mindset, we are very deliberate about everything that we do when it comes to picking a song, when it comes to expanding our creativity to really demonstrate the message that we're trying to get across to the congregation. And I believe Deborah said something, you said that if it's worth doing it, like that's something that we really take into account when we're miming, especially when we have an engagement. Sometimes we may have an engagement and haven't done a mime in I don't know how many months, and then you know you have a decision whether or not should we do something old, should we do something new, and depending on the specific engagement, like we have a variety of different engagements: funerals, weddings, conferences, you know, just a variety of different things. And depending on the engagement and truly like seeking God on, Lord, what do you want us to show these people? That's how we determine the songs that we choose, the movements that we choose. And it truly is such a unique experience. It really is a unique experience because we no longer become, you know, who we are. It's like, even as a little girl, I always told people I love miming because I don't have to be myself. You know, I can be whoever I'm demonstrating in this song, in this dance, whatever message the Lord is trying to get across. So it truly is a unique experience. And when we go back into the Bible, there's even scripture references of how God has used people to demonstrate things without words. And even in the Jesus, when he came, he's very creative in the way that he delivered messages. He always used parables. So there's always a creative form where he tried to get his message across to the people. So with that mindset and with our biblical scriptures, references as well, we really try to get across whatever the Lord is trying to display to the church or congregation, the people that are going to be there. And that is a powerful thing. Like, I really truly appreciate the gift of mine, because I think, you know, it truly is a gift. It's a skill, but it's also a gift, because when you're able to really capture a group of people, like you said, when they're able to laugh at the right parts, they're able to, you know, interact with you. They completely understand what you're trying to display, what you're trying to come across without words. That form of communication is such a wonderful gift. And like, I get choked up because it really is a blessing.
Yeah. Oh no, I completely agree. I'm sure we all have felt that in performance.
Yeah.
Everyone here. And it's you know, some people describe it as the magic that happens in the rehearsal room. You know, many times Irina and I would have discussions when I was working with her about the energy of the audience and the impact of what we were performing. You know, when I was with them, they did their Hamlet without words. And then we also did outreach shows that were all pantomime and full of humor. And I'm sure we could all talk about, you know, the impact to the performer in this specific art form. I think it's very different. Maybe Michelle, you can speak about this in your training. As far as Shakespeare, there's such an openness that the actor performer has to go through in pantomime that is, I think, unique, maybe parallel to singing, because we often, if you know, you have to be very open for singing. But yes, are you finished? Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to add to it. In the arena of church, when I'm talking with ministry, it's another unique thing about mime is that you know, going to church, you don't always relate exactly to what the preacher is saying. You may not always understand you know, the scripture references. You may not always understand the musical songs. Like everything doesn't always do it for you. So it's another tool and another, you know, way that I feel like the word and the ministry of, you know, of Christ, we can really get it across clearly in a way that's unique and in a way that really can capture someone's, you know, someone's heart and, you know, their mind. So I think it's wonderful, and I'm so blessed and feel so privileged to have the skill, have the anointing, have the ability to do it.
Yeah, it is a very unique skill. It's very,
Yeah.
and along with clowning, I would say, you know, it's
Yes.
something that changes you as a performer. I mean, almost in a raw, if you were going to break it down, it's like once you perform in the nude, like you've crossed a threshold and now you just have a certain confidence. You know, I feel like with silent acting, you know, and we could all speak to this, that it's like another level of relationship with the audience. What do you think,
And
Michelle,
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
as
definitely.
far as the art form and, you know, using it?
Yeah, there's like you were saying, there's definitely an openness when you're telling a story that has to happen when you're not using words. You know, I think about the work that I did with the Cirque and the story that we were trying to tell, which was a very sort of Shakespearean, you know, mishap love story that was all done with physicality in different moments, not all together. It was different moments throughout the show. By the end of the show, you get the end of the story. But there is a thing that happens, you know, a vulnerability, an openness, you know, that you choose to express these intricacies of a conversation between two people that's just physical, just, you know, and you can't, you know, like if you want the audience to follow, you have to be very detailed in that and precise, and then on top of that, if you're hired to make the people laugh, you have to find the comedy in it. And so there is something really amazing that I experienced from doing this work to such big audiences like Cirque has, when you have a whole audience that is like killed over laughing because of a tiny movement you made, or a look of the head, or whatever it is. It's powerful. It's super powerful. And that's something that I guess began to appreciate from doing that work for so long. The nonverbal work. I definitely have an appreciation for it, a greater appreciation for it now. And so yeah, I mean, it's amazing. and I just wanted to say, you know, right on, Sister Deborah, like with the, you know, that this is that it can be a wide art form. And I look at the diversity just on this panel, and why not? And, you know, I know there's purists in everything, and me being sort of multidisciplinary, like coming from classical theater and regular theater and downtown New York theater, circus, and now mime. Yeah, you know, like I mix it all in there. There's no, I mean, you try to, as a young performer, you try to learn the rules of all these disciplines, right? You learn the rules, but then you break them. That's what, yeah. Right? Like,
yes.
Exactly.
And here's the other thing.
Yeah, then you break it to tell your story in a unique way, to make up new things, to explore new things. So I'm all about that, and I love that you know, I mean, I think we you know, I understand that thing of like, God, I'm so sick of this conversation. Like, can't you guys get over it? But let's evolve the conversation and just accept it, right? Like, what we're doing, everybody here in this panel is amazing and extraordinary. And then also the fact that we're women, because I mean, I know in the clowning world, it's a very white male cis cis white male industry, profession.
Yeah.
And so we're stretching for always. It's not like that's just happening now, obviously. We've got
Yeah,
a
well,
group here
I think back in the day, the only vision that Americans anyway had of what mime was the classical French mime performed
Exactly.
by Marcel Marceau and mostly men. But if you look around at our history and the history of gestural theater, it includes all different genders. It includes all different forms. It's different in Asia than it is here. And the last panel had some women from Shanghai that had a lot to contribute. We met a lot of puppeteers in Romania when we were there that, are part of it. That's one thing. And then there's one other thing, and then I'd like to hear from Irina, is on most of the panels that have happened so far, it's been mostly older mimes. So we were schooled in a classical training, and then we branched out from there. And, these kind of comments, you can't do this, usually came from men, and it came from the old timers. What I'm fascinated with is how the young people have taken gestural theater and just run with it. I mean, look at the movements in breakdancing or the robot or street mime. And those
Exactly.
are mostly young Black performers. And I think that they should be included in the conversation too, because I think in our generation, we were used to looking at the people above us as the teachers for what we should be doing. And then we were the youth and took it from there. As older people, I feel like it's our job to look to the youth and see what they have to offer us in the ways that they've taken. I taught 1 million kids how to be a robot or pull a rope or do this, and they ran with it. And look at it now. They do stuff that I just would never have even imagined.
Exactly. Yes, this is actually, that's where I wanted to go with conversation, because as I said before, in America, they have only one-way mime, which is, white face, doing wall, pulling rope, and it's done. So, and to break the mime, because of in the Europe, we have different art forms where it's Dadaism involved. For America, Dadaism, it's like, I don't know, we kind of did a little bit of Dadaism style way trial. And I tell you, it was for intellectual people more. I don't want to spread the audience that way, basically, but not for everyone. First of all, it was trial. It was Kafka, not for so many Americans to understand that. And second of all, it's in weird style. They were like, what the hell's going on? But some people, but it was not that many who love that style. So I think it's for that kind of art form here, not ready yet, but we still have to challenging Americans and break this style and introduce them and educate them that way. Because not everything you have to, like a Roach Taylor, my favorite drummer from the Queen, I grew up on Queen. He said, which is really exactly goes in my way too, that when you write song, he said that you don't have to completely explain everything. You have to leave the room for people to interact with it. Their own, interaction is most important. Their feeling to connect it, their experience to connect it. That's how we are taking our art. So we're not chewing them. We're giving the room to them that they created with you, and they're all come with own feelings of it. They are co-working with you to create that show, and with own experience. Their experience, it's how far they will understand the show, and leaving room for imagination. So that's where we go. And if you watch, if you stay in the old classical way, Marcel Marceau created melodrama. So melodrama is understandable. It's good to know, yes, it's a school. And it's good to know, because sometimes you're gonna use that way. You know, there is the crew, then there is so many kabuki and different styles. So it's good to know them. You know, this is all your library, but then break and do your own way. What is the feels right way? And for you, what's art form? I feel sometimes contemporary dance to be involved there. I'm using that style. Sometimes I'm using completely, I don't know what kind of movement, but it feels right, because like this is for me, it's TV right now, you know, channels breaking, right? So, I mean, it's all your experience. And when I teach my kids, actually, I teach in teenagers. Right now, we're doing on Zoom Hamlet, but we're waiting when we're going to be on outside, you know, when it's going to be a little bit warmer, so we can, you know, stage this outside. I'm going to probably, you know, somewhere open place with mask. We're going to stage. Right now we're just learning movement, but I'm running the teens program for long already, and they love it. They're so involved, and you know, they're doing you know, silent Shakespeare, and they love it, and they're learning this all isolations. Then they see, they then like, oh yes, like a moonwalk, like everybody knows, like moonwalk is, you know, Marcel Marceau pantomime walk, right? So, or it's like a broken walk, Janet Jackson, you know, learn there. Then you see street performer when they're doing isolation. So, oh my God, this is, you know, so, and they're already doing that. So this is already been in the breakdance to starting using sound wave and stuff. And it's progressed more and more using that style. What is upsets me that in the colleges, for example, and universities in Georgia, or Russia schools, everywhere, they teach this art form in the first, you know, freshmen in the college. Everybody goes through that. And here in America, actors, you know, graduated from the school, you know, from acting school, and they either they can only talk, minimalistically walk, or either they can dance and sing. So my question is like, it's not an actor who is transforming. And especially today, when we're thinking about like, what is today? Today, actor has to be available to fight, jump, run, and work in the front of the green screen, right? This is called actor, who can do everything, universal. He has to know everything. If you ask him sing, he wanna sing. If you ask him dance, he has to dance. If you tell him like, let's go, we're gonna do show on the green screen, and then we're gonna put projections behind. So how these actors who never done pantomime, you know, or like first Stanislavski's technique, memory, and physical acting, right? Action. So how they gonna do it? Because this is like a base, and this is in every school, acting schools in Georgia or Russia, they're learning everybody. Like this is like, you know, they're graded for that, and they're real professional way trained in that. You know, they have this skill, because actor has to do all of that. And here in the United States, we don't have that so much push on the, you know, on in the acting classes, pantomime. And I think it has to be there, because it creates imagination, plasticity, and, you know, basically, if we don't go far away, body awareness, you know, which is important for the actors. But besides that, actor has to be more than that. They have to know how to move, how to transfer, how they can be animals, and then take animals as a, you know, character, for example, in the comedy, right? You can be some animal in the comedy, but how you can do that if you don't know how to move? And this stiffness, unfortunately, you can see in the bodies in so many actors on stage today.
Yeah, maybe we can talk.
I think, but
yeah, no, that's wonderful. I think that's a good segue to a question I had, you know, for all of you, and it's about the future. I mean, we're already kind of in that subject, but you know, I understand that, you know, Mime even started in the church. I remember reading that as part of performance in old churches for storytelling. And the fact that when the popularity of Marcel Marceau was so prevalent in the 60s and 70s because of his world tour, and he was like, boom, you know, on the forefront, and everybody it just wowed, loved mime in New York City. And you would find mimes in Central Park. Robin Williams did it. And at that same time, street dancing was exploding. And I really feel like there was a connection between the two because of seeing it and the popularity of mime in New York City. I think a lot of the movements that are in and grew, you know, obviously per coast and location of the United States for hip hop dancing. But I think there was a moment in time where miming and hip hop dance were like right next to each other. And we just see all the grandchildren in those art forms, you know, so I think what I wanted to talk about is what you strive to give back from your work, specifically from your own training or using nonverbal performance, or, you know, what you in the past, you know, really enjoyed giving back and training or teaching or just performing. What kind of things in this art form really spark a fire for you that you can talk about? Michelle?
I mean, I have so. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I just haven't heard from Michelle in a while. So are you ready to speak to that, or do you want to pass it on? It's up to you ladies now.
I didn't know who was trying to go. I didn't even see who that was. Anyway, I can.
Yeah.
One thing I did want to comment on something that Irina had said before, just about the United States. I find is, you know, kind of stuck in all of this in a narrow view. I mean, even in the clowning world, being introduced to so many clowns outside of the United States, and not only clowns, but audiences outside of the United States. It's really unfortunate about the view on these things that Americans have. You know, a lot of times when I talk about clowning here or in the States, it's just always relegated to one type of clowning for kids. And, you know, I guess balloon making or something, you know, that comes out of that. And it's just such a narrow view of clowning. And so I imagine that there's that narrow view for miming also. That's
Yeah.
I don't know what our problem is. I don't know what the heck our the United States' problem is with that. It's just.
Can I tell you what is that? Movies, scary movie, completely. You know, when they saying that clowns are scary, and like clowns, it make people happy and smile. And because of this scary movie, that's how you learn about clowns. This is so wrong. This is so wrong opinion. So we have to educate people. That's why a part of it we did King Lear in the clowning, to show people clowns can be funny. Actually, you know, it's and you know.
Yeah. And then to your other question, it's like just I'm in a sort of a mode right now of just trying to share everything that I've learned with folks that are interested in it, and specifically BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, and people of color. I didn't, you know, like 20 years ago when I started in this journey with clown, I was quite often the only one in the room. And, you know, I mean, I grew up like that, and it did, you know, like that was just part of my journey. So I didn't think about it in such a way, but I just was asked to do a exclusive BIPOC Power of Play. And when I was asked to do that, I couldn't even imagine that I was like, well, okay, I mean, I guess I get a couple folks, but I don't know who's going to do this. And it's amazing. Like the class is sold out, and these folks are people, young folks that like, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm getting stuck in my words, but it's just fascinating to me because I'm now the person that, like, if you Google African-American clown, my name pops up. my Wikipedia page pops up. And so these folks have Googled me and followed me and just like all of a sudden waiting for this workshop to happen. And I had no idea that that was it. So I get all these people in this class and I'm like, Black people, you know, like
That's good.
welcome to the clown. It's amazing. And of course, like I said, I mix a lot of things. I wouldn't say that it's straight up clown, but it's just performance and it's expression and storytelling, right? Like, so I'm really excited in this moment to have to have it be inclusive in a way, and to have Black, Indigenous, and people of color interested and wanting to feel comfortable to explore and be in safe spaces to explore the art form. And I feel honored and like, you know, of course I have imposter syndrome with it because it's like me, I don't know, but anyway, I'm giving as much as I just wanted to give as much as I can, because I also think that I'm still always a student, right? Like I'm not,
Exactly.
you know, I'm still learning this clowning thing. Like I said, I was pulled kicking and screaming in this art form. Like I was like, I'm a classical trained art, you know, actress. What are you saying? But apparently I'm a mime and a clown. So so anyway, I want to give to these folks because I love that there's the potential that they will get jobs and be there'll be more Black people doing it, more Indigenous folks in the mix, that it'll diversify, you know, this will just become all of us storytelling in this way and using the art form and not just so one side, you know, like you only see one type of people doing this. So that's where I am right now, is just being able to teach, you know, intro to clowning and intro to storytelling, physical comedy and all these things, specifically to BIPOC folks. So I was just trying to answer the question, Catherine.
Oh no, you did a wonderful job. And I
Michelle,
will say this, I remember vividly the first time I heard about your story. And I was just so happy because I was already aware of this, you know, unevenness in the arts all around me. And I was just like, thank God, because we get this vision from a lot of circus, you know, and clown in this country. And, you know, the way things are marketed, you know, is so important, you know, and who is in the role is so important to the future generations. We have very, very little knowledge of the little butterfly effects of things, but I am positive that just you doing the work you're doing has transformed so many people's outlooks on their ability to be in this industry. And I commend you for sharing, and, you know, also for you, Amanda, you know, for bringing it to in such a direct way to your community.
Yes,
that's really important, because when you don't see, like, that's the reason why I think I was kicking and screaming to go into the clown and the circus world, because I didn't see anyone like me doing it. There was no example that I could say, oh, okay, I could be like them. So that's why I resisted for so long, because, you know, I don't, you know.
I don't know if you watched the TV show Fame, the original TV show Fame. I remember watching that and just having this pretty tangible jealousy of the amazing talent in this performing arts high school in the city. Like, I wanted that environment, like, since I was like younger. And I wonder if that impacted you at all, if you saw that show. Do you remember?
Sure. And if I remember, it was pretty much a lot of singing, dancing, and pop acting.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, you know, I saw a lot of singers dance. Yeah, that was normal. Like, I went to theater school. It didn't seem, there's plenty of examples of that, but specifically circus and clowning, I didn't see any like full-figured Black women putting on a red clown nose. and clowning as a profession, like, and actually like making a living. Like that just didn't, I didn't,
No,
or
that's not
falling, or, you know, do any of the, I didn't see anyone like that doing that.
Exactly.
So I, you know, I was like, and plus like, that was my mom, probably my parents' worst nightmare was for me to be a clown running off to the circus. Like, you know, it was already enough that I was
Mine
doing
too.
this theater career,
Of course.
but like, you know, it just wasn't, even though
why
I
can't you
was
be
like,
more
I was
like
class
Oprah Winfrey?
clown.
Right,
I was
right.
voted
Yes,
class
so
clown.
I
So
understand you completely. Yeah, it's so disrespectful here. Also, clowning, kinda, because of it's created so many legends about clowns. So children either never saw clowns; they saw just only TV. If they see a clown appears in the show somewhere, you know, live show, they're screaming, and they're like, "Clown is so scary." I like, no, it's not scary. Why it's scary? And because of they so scary movies. So, and this legend. So this has to be break it because of I grew up on clowns, and in the Soviet time, I'm talking like I'm so old, but yes, I grew up in the Soviet Union, and then it's when I came in America, that's when collapsed. I mean, during me, it's collapsed Soviet Union, and then I came in the United States, and I grew up on the clowns teaching me ABC, like you know, on TV, and through those and clowns was favorite things to watch for us on TV, because clowns, like when I go to circus, I was waiting for clowns, and suddenly here, you know, it's opposite. They're afraid of clowns, and I was shocked, like, why you're afraid of clowns? You don't know. I mean, yes, it's has to be changed, and we have to change somehow. And I think it's more women have to go in the clowning and change those, you know, young generation and older, I guess, already, because of it in the beginning was like, oh, you're afraid of clowns. So it's there already now, adult. So yeah, we have to change their mind and educate them that clowning, it's an art form, and it's very difficult art form, making people laugh and hold them on the upbeat. It's very difficult as an artist. It's challenging because of, as an artist, for me, it's actress. For me, it's easier make people cry than make them laugh. You know, with cry, with the tragedy, everybody associates, you know, same way. But humor, it's a little bit different. Like here, humor, it's a little bit different. And then in my country, for example, you know, for me, people, you know, if you do jokes like a face in the cake, they will not laugh on that. In there is going to be, oh my God, you just waste whole cake. And now what we're going to eat? It's like a, you know, product be destroyed. And it's not funny. It's probably tragedy, because now nobody can eat the cake. You know, it's a waste. I don't know, 30 eggs there. And you know what I mean? And here it's a wah ha ha ha. It's so funny. For me, it took so long to understand this is funny. You know what I mean? So, and some like racist jokes, which is in my country can be, it will be not acceptable here, because there is like some racist jokes, it's all right. And here it's going to be completely not appropriate. So it's basically like a humor. It's, you have to really know culture and what to bring to that culture. I mean, I'm talking about like, you know, like a humor wise, where is the understanding of the humor? It took me so long to understand that's funny, actually, you know, cake in the face, but you know, that's what
And I feel like as I watch things on TikTok and performers on TikTok and regular people becoming enormous on TikTok, and it really does depend on, you know, what they're doing and if it just happens to work. And it's almost clowning across the board. Like they're just this kind of clown, but there's no makeup, there's no this, there's a dancer clown, there's this kind of clown. And I really feel like it's enmeshed in a new way in our culture, where we will, like, if I ever mention, oh, well, you know, they don't like mimes. I live with people that are younger than me, and they're like, what do you mean? Like, they don't know, like, the time in America when everybody was like, oh, mime is a terrible thing to waste, you know, like, you know, kill the mime, they're annoying. And we've discussed in the group together, the other women with this panel, you know, that you know, we could just move on maybe from that. But if it ever comes up, I think it's heavier with clowning. But I've done plenty of mime gigs in the New York City area, and like, can't tell you how many times I've been called a clown. And I'm not doing any verbalization, you know? So how do you tell someone, no, I'm a mime? Like, there's just like, it's not part of the conversation at that point.
Putting me in a
Well,
box.
Catherine,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Catherine, in the
Yes.
school of the clowning school, they are learning mime too. So clowns should be also, I'm talking about like a classical trained clowns in Europe. They are training as a mime. They are trained as an acrobats. Actually, clowns do so much. They are so much hard job as clown to do than there is in the circus. They are having like a specialist in the acrobatics and stuff. So clowns usually do everything of that. You know what I mean? And they know mime really well. There's Engi Barov. Engi Barov, if you remember, Engi Barov was set clown. He he died in the 1973 actually. So that, well, his life he was set clown, and he was acrobat. He was doing crazy stuff, and he's mime. So, you know, set clown, you can check Engi Barov.
Okay. Yeah, maybe
Leonid
type
Engibarov.
that in the chat.
Leonid Engibarov. Yeah, you can check him. He's old. I mean, he's died in the 73, so I don't know.
If anybody knows the name, you can type it in. Deborah, you wanted to say something?
Well, I wanted to get back to what Michelle was saying, that she never saw an image that looked like her in the broad range of now what we're referring to as gestural theater. I don't, you know, whether it be clowning or miming or whatever. But I would suggest that would be a great project, either for an academic or somebody like yourself, to look into the history of gestural theater among communities of people of color. And I'm sure that you have a rich history of your own that contributes to our ideas of what a clown is and what kind of movements in gestural theater. I mean, some of our greatest dancers of all time were Black dancers. Or somebody like, what was his name? That performed with Shirley Temple and did the dances. I mean, they obviously, yeah, I'm not just talking about minstrel shows now. I'm talking about the way, and maybe Amanda can talk about this too, the way individual communities entertained each other, and whether or not gestures played a huge role in the way that they communicate and do theater. And of course they do. So that would be an interesting thing to look into, just like we're looking into, you know, how women have been a part of the mime story, because in this country and in Europe and in Latin America, I've experienced, and we all have, that when you think of mime or the great mime teachers or great mime theater, it's always men, 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 and the women are not considered. It's the same thing with people of color. It's like, what have they contributed to our idea of what gestural and theater encompasses in a broad sense? And the contributions are huge and many. It's just that story, like all other histories of people that don't fit the norm, they're not told, right? They're not told. And I have to say, I mean, I don't identify very strongly as being Jewish, but being, you know, my DNA says that I'm 100% Ashkenazi. So for example, when I go to the doctor and they ask me what race I am, I can't say to them, I'm white, because I know that the white community doesn't accept Ashkenazis as being white. And that's why 6 million of us were fucking murdered, pardon my French, okay? So, and we even have members of Congress now talking about a Jewish space, you know, I mean, it boggles the mind the way we're viewed. I've even have people ask me where my horns were, or whether or not,
Oh.
I mean,
I had to have an art teacher in high school explain to us why people in the paintings on the ceiling in Europe had horns. I was like completely shocked that they were not little devils. They were
Okay.
actually.
Okay, but if you look at the contributions of Jewish people to the main culture and to humor and to clowning, Marcel Marceau developed his skill rescuing children during the Holocaust. And he was able to fool the enemy, the Germans, by miming the fact that troops were coming. He was able to hide the children because they had a silent language. And there's a new film out starring Jesse Eisenberg,
Right.
where they talk about and they show what his role, and he was a French hero. And even the French rejected him. They thought that his mime art was an art for children. And that's another thing to talk about, Michelle, in a minute that made me think of. So there's lots of ways in many different communities. Again, I have to stress that Asian mime has a totally rich Indian dance with all the gestures.
Yes, all of telling the story.
Mhm.
In Kabuki, I did a complete Japanese fan dance where I had to learn the use of the fan, and it represented flowers blooming or writing a letter or whatever you were doing in gestures, told a specific thing. Anyway, getting back to people's knowledge of what's there, I think we can always expand our knowledge base and look at the contributions of various cultures to what we view as being gestural theater. That was Bojangles, by the way. That's
Right.
the
Amanda, how
Okay.
do you feel with your?
other
Oh,
black clowns. But Michelle, the other thing that you touched on, mime has always been considered the bastard art, or it's not real theater, like you were saying, Irina, and it's just for kids, and it's not good. And when Marcel Marceau died, the French all of a sudden had to realize that he was a war hero, that he was a hero, and that he could. And I can't tell you how many times I was invited to a fundraiser or an international night, and they wanted somebody to represent France. So they wanted me to put on a beret, wear the striped t-shirt, wear the white face, and I would put like an Eiffel Tower on me, and I would be the character representing all of French culture. Meanwhile, French culture looked at the art of mime as being for children only and not a serious art form. And I always have had people say to me, "Oh, you're nothing but a mime," or that might be, they would say,
Exactly.
"That's a cute little profession," or "That's a good profession for a woman to do," yada, yada. I
yeah.
can't tell you how many times it was looked at as not being serious and
I know.
serious investigation. So I have to say, I'm very proud that all of my life's works, and we're talking about 3 gigantic boxes of posters, programs, notes, discussions, books that I'm in, articles that I've written about the art of mime and investigative theater were published. It's all being collected and will be in the University of Illinois archives for student and life culture. And then, because my stuff obviously is not digitized, right? And that's maybe a discussion for another time, how digitization and the use of computers has helped the profession. Ways in which it can be used. We didn't have those tools back then. Kids have different tools nowadays. But that will be a way where people can see the history, can look at what we were talking about, can look what was popular in the 60s and 70s and 80s. And that's, Michelle, that's like, okay, come on, girl. This is a project. for
Yes,
you.
No,
yes,
I
exactly.
appreciate that. That's
Yeah.
a good, I think it's a good project, and some of the work that I have done, but I understand what you're saying, like a more community thing, because I've done a lot of research of great entertainers that actually came out of minstrelsy. But the other thing I was gonna say is like, yeah, it's interesting because like getting actors to dip into clowning a little bit or miming, it's always like, you know, this thing, like they have this idea of it, and it's like, you know what, clowning made me a better actor. Number one, because it's hard, it's the hardest thing, just like you were saying. Number two, I get paid as a clown. You're an actor, you don't get paid, you know. Clowning has paid me. Clowning has bought me homes. Clowning has bought me cars. Clowning has like funded other projects that I wanted to do. So it's like, don't come and tell me about like, you know, this whole, don't be snooty to me about like being an actor because you're a broke actor, right? Like
Even, you know, it not just among actors, but in the old days when I would wear white face if I was working in the schools, and then I had to go from one school in the morning to a library in the afternoon, didn't have time to change my makeup. So one day I'm standing in a line in a gas station where everybody's trying to buy some donuts for lunch or a sandwich or whatever. And so you see the plumbers standing there, and then you see the businessman is standing there, and then there's a woman and her kid, and then there's me, and I'm the mime, right? And I started laughing to myself. I'm like, well, I'm a profession like anybody else. Or you go and you check out with your groceries and they go, ha ha, you're a mime, I hate mime. And I said, yeah, motherfucker. Well, the money I just made, you know, I just made $150 an hour to play with kids, and it's going to pay my rent. So you want to laugh at me, go right ahead. But this is a serious profession. You know, it's like,
I mean,
it's paying the rent.
Can I
I
add
don't
something?
say I hate grocery store clerks. I mean, what's up with that?
I want to add
Come on.
something. I want to add something to that topics because of for me, it's not that many actors, so you know whom I really admire, but one of them is Marcel Marceau, and not because of he was great mime. I'm telling you that when we did workshop, Catherine was there too with Marcel Marceau. He came late, and I'm telling you, when he came, this is old man comes here, you know, very old, you know, barely walks, and he was doing 2-hour show that evening. He came, and then he's like, you know, in French, speaking, and then he's showing to us, and suddenly he stands up, and you know, we all feeling the energy wave, and will hit us, and we are watching Marcel Marceau doing his magic. Maybe his walnuts was perfect because he was like a halfway showing the wall, you know. But we are wow somewhere, and boom, and he's back, and that's how you do, and so the details, and it was like, and then he shows again, and boom, and immediately, and we are in different, you know, dimension, and dimension goes, and we feel this wave, you know, coming. You feel it. This energy, not so many actors have. This is magic. This is not because of he's doing such a great pantomime technique. He was already old. He was 70 in that time.
Yeah.
But
It's like Michelle, you say, you know, when you're standing in front of a large audience, and I've performed in opera houses in Romania that had 2,000 people. I performed for 2,000 Cuban kids with a Russian circus. It was bizarre. But you're standing there, and even when you're in the school, let's say, and there's 500 kids, and you're one person up there, and without uttering a word, you can hear a pin drop from that audience. And the teachers and the principal are like, what in the hell is going on? Because they have to yell at the kids all the time. And there's something magic about that connection without uttering a sound. You have everybody concentrating. And that, I think, is like, if you take one thing out of the mix, and it could be the opposite. Old radio dramas were fascinating because all they could hear was the sound, and their imagination filled in the rest. It's the same with gestural theater. You're looking, you take all the other elements out, and that forces you to focus on what's being said. I mean, those moments are magical. And I dare any regular actor who's used to using words, get up and do that without a lot of skill and a lot of training, and being able to read your audience and take them from up here to down here, to laughing hysterically, to being totally silent. That's a skill. Let me tell you, that is a skill.
Amanda, I wanted to hear from Amanda on this, because
Yeah.
your environment is so direct, even more so than a proscenium theater. You're like steps away from people in the congregation, and they become so invested, and you're invited through engagements. Can you talk about this phenomenon with performing and educating the kids that you see at these events and seeing their reactions with the type of mime you do?
Absolutely. I actually want to circle back to Michelle's experience. And I think there is some value in understanding that we do have culture of, entertainment, dance, arts, but there is a limited, representation that we see for African Americans when it does come to, clowning. So in that regards, Michelle, you really are a pioneer, and what you're doing is so important and such a contribution to our culture. So I just, wanted to commend you for that, and really acknowledge that what you're doing is truly rare. And it would be awesome for us, like Deborah said, to really have a body of work where we can really display the history of clowning, if we do have one, because I'm not even sure if we really do, but I do think that would be very useful and awesome. But for your experience directly, I think there is value in acknowledging that what you're doing is really a pioneer pursuit for our culture. So I completely commend you on that.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yes, Michelle.
But I
That's right.
don't want to definitely discount, like, it's our story, my story, your story, Amanda. And you're right. Like there's the communities, I think, where things are happening that we haven't uncovered yet, or that things have happened that we haven't uncovered yet. So, but anyway, I appreciate your words. Thank you.
Yeah. So back to Catherine's question. Speaking to my experience of, I guess, trying to mentor and teach the skill of mime, it's definitely unique for me, and it really is a challenge, to be quite honest, because my upbringing with mime was I learned a lot, like, of material that was taught to me, but we had one lady that came in from another church that taught us a routine. And that was kind of it when it came to the training. Like, we learned a routine and we performed it, and she taught us about mime, she taught us about the ministry aspect of it. And then our skill developed really on our own. We experimented, we tried different things, we, kind of stepped outside of our comfort zone to the point where we are at the caliber that we're at now. When I say we, it's two of us right now, but there was, a group of 6 of us, but you know, things happen, people fall off and whatnot, but now it's 2 of us, myself and Brene Osborne. And so because like the skill that we have now, it was self-taught. So it's a little bit difficult trying to transition that into becoming the teacher now, because I felt like I was kind of, you know, experimenting on my own and figuring things out. So now as like a teacher, as a mentor, it definitely presents a different set of challenges, because I truly feel like the mime is a gift, especially, you know, we talked about before about having the, you know, I guess like the backbone of different arts. Like me and Brene did ballet, tap, hip hop. So we were instructed in different forms of dance. So we used those tools with us when it came to mime, whereas some of the, you know, the girls that we may be teaching right now, they may not have that same type of experience that we have. So we had to really teach them different techniques, different, I know words aren't coming to me clearly right now, but you know, like the different modes of dance, that's what I'm trying to say, the different modes of dance, so that they can truly understand how to use their body in the form of mime. Because really with mime, you can like Deborah said, you take all these things and you just make it into this creative art form without words. So it is definitely presenting a new set of challenges, but within the church arena, I feel like mime has expanded even more. It's becoming a lot more popularized than it was when I started, when I was, you know, 6 or 7. Now I can say that a lot of the other churches that we fellowship with, they have mime groups. And, you know, they would ask us, so what did you guys do? How did you learn? And, you know, a lot of the times we would have to tell them, you know, we kind of figured it out on our own. We experimented because, like I said, we didn't have like a set instructor. Every dance that we did is something that we created, that we choreographed on our own. So I think it's awesome that mime is becoming a lot more popularized, especially within the church. And I think it would be even more dynamic for it to go beyond that, so that like when I have conversations with other, you know, African Americans, and I'm like, you know, I mime, it's like, you what? Like, you do what? Like white face mime, like build a box. I said, yeah, like that's what I do. It's still a rare experience within our culture. So I would love it to get to the point where it's not such a shock factor. I mean, I still think the shock factor is cool. I appreciate it. It makes it feel like unique. It makes it feel like a strength that I have. But you know, I would love for it to become, you know, more popularized just in general.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I think the platforms are, you know, opening up in different ways since this pandemic has hit. I've connected with mimes in a whole new way because of Instagram than I have in the 14 or 15 years I've lived in New York City. And I, you know, just, I think I want to finish up, you know, I don't want to, we could spend all afternoon with each other, I'm sure, but we don't have time. I don't know. Marco's having some computer problems in Serbia, so I'm in charge of ending the meeting. But I wanted to talk about, you know, quickly, if possible, you know, our thoughts on, you know, what platforms you have investigated and used in the pandemic for the art form, or that you're intrigued by generally, as far as, you know, the outreach now of artists is much more direct than it ever was. Now we don't have this barrier of, you know, let's say NYU, you know, clowning, you know, that person and those graduates of those programs are on social media willing to teach. And I just wanted to get everybody's, you know, thoughts on, if you can briefly, what you've done or what you found during this pandemic that has either been frustrating or enriching as far as reaching new people for you as artists. And just for me briefly, it was nice to teach online for free on Instagram each week. I did it in the summer. So anybody else that's ready to speak?
I'm
Yeah.
ready to speak. Do
Okay.
you want me to start to speak? Because of not personally me, by my theater. I'm teaching, of course. I'm teaching. I did audition on Zoom for Next Generation Cinetic. We're doing this every year, so we are looking for talented actors who will be interesting to be in the movement theater. And we're doing every year auditions and then trainings for certain time. So right now we're done from September to December, one part of training, and now tomorrow starts my second part of training with my new people. That's one. As soon as COVID hit us, we of course canceled our shows, which is supposed to be out there. And because of that, we moved to platform on movie, and we create platform for our actors. It's called Decameron. And as you know, Decameron, it was written during the Black Plague. And that's basically in USA right now. We're experiencing exactly that kind of plague, COVID called. And we give platform to like how you feel, create the stories, and the format of the movie. I mean, basically, using cell phones and that kind of ability. So we create that Decameron. We released already. We got 21 stories. It was so beautiful, nice project. And then
how many of them?
And now we are opening platform for motion picture, which is gonna be we're gonna create the movies. We have so many significants throughout the world right now. Actually, some of them in LA, some of them in New York, some of them in Tbilisi, Georgia, right now. So basically, so many significants around, and we are right now doing motion picture, which is they're gonna create the stories, movie stories, silent. So our style still. And we're doing Grimm's Brother right now. Also, it's also gonna be like a Decameron, same platform. And we're going to do later Edgar Allan Poe stories, but it's gonna be staged on stage, but recorded. So that's what's going on in Cinetic right now. So we try to give actors to still be in the creation.
And Irina, can people go to your website and watch pieces of Decameron still?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So it's available. So it's a wonderful project. All the actors were, virtual and self-recorded themselves. And there's just such a variation on execution. It's really something fascinating to look at as far as a performance in this time. Michelle?
So man, I just took everything online. Like we shut down March 17th of last year. 10 days later, I produced my first show online, which was a variety show, and just never stopped. And because I did it so early, people thought that I was like some sort of expert. So I got hired to bring a ton of stuff online. And this year, directing some stuff and just trying to create more platforms for performers to do. I've discovered tons of stuff from performing online that I would have never discovered as a performer, because it's this performing in this little box, right? Like it's a different way of performing. It's great. Like I know some people are so frustrated, like it's not the same. And no, it's not the same. It's never going to be the same. Like I'm not trying to say that it's the same. That's not who's doing that. Like this is the same. This is the same as in a live theater. Come to my show. No, that's not the point. The point is we keep working, we keep discovering, we keep growing.
I know.
And if you learn how to perform in this little box and play and move and tell stories, you're going to discover something new about yourself and about the world. So that's what I've been doing, and more creating platforms for others to do that. And so circleup.fun is the website where I put all the stuff. Soon you'll be able to see past stuff. I'm going to put all the shows that we did last year on there, and keep producing until we can get back to playing in the regular theater or whatever. Amanda, I was gonna say it's never too late to check out workshops and do things, you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
and to learn, and it seems that you've been working all these years on a natural talent and using the skills that you have, which is phenomenal. I would love to see, you know, some of the work that you do. And I was just saying, like, there's so many masters out there doing stuff, and even online, that never too late to dip into that and see what you've been doing, what you can learn that's new, but also just affirming the natural talent that you have and what you've been using all these years, self-taught. I think it's amazing. I can't wait to see something that you're doing. So so anyway, that's what we've been doing, and that's it.
Catherine, I forgot to mention, we done also on Zoom show, which was one-man show live, and people was watching from the Zoom, buying tickets there. But we did, it's called Joy, and you can check guys in. It's about one, you know, it's immigrants, you know, point of view, how they find the joy life journey, and another one from, you know, Black perspective. So it was like a two immigrant, and, you know, it was two different shows, basically. I mean, same joy, but one day one were performing, another day was another performing. So it's very interesting to see those perspectives, how they find the joy and where were their struggles. So it's you know, but it was not silent. Some of them was movement. Yes.
Okay. Amanda, as far as the pandemic, yeah.
So the pandemic has definitely changed a lot. You know, we're not congregating in person anymore. And when it comes to services, we really do rely on that congregation interaction, because like you said, it is so close. Like, I can literally see people's expressions, faces afterwards. I get to hear, oh my God, you guys ministered, this blessed me tremendously. So that is truly an essential part of like the reinforcement for me. So I have done we've done 2 engagements virtually, and it's very different. It's very different. But I guess, like I said, with the whole teaching thing, it brought a new set of challenges for us. And I think it's more of like a mental game that I have to shift my thinking with this virtual platform now. But when it comes to teaching the next generation, that kind of has been on pause right now. But I really do appreciate Michelle's comment, because I'm sitting here thinking, like, you know, yes, I have been relying on my, you know, natural skills, natural abilities, but maybe I should like invest in some classes that I believe probably will help me gain a lot more tools when it comes to instructing these younger girls that I would like to see flourish into the Mime ministry. So definitely I will take on that, and that's something that I would like to do currently within the pandemic.
Well, I'm excited that the
people, I was just going to say real quick, Amanda, it happens all the time. We all go to each other's workshops and we just steal stuff. And, you know, we steal stuff to go and teach in our workshop. So don't feel any shame about that. Like, you know, at this point, you're stepping into the teaching role. So, right. You know, when you take these other workshops, take notes, steal the techniques, you know, and please, you're welcome to come to any of the things that I'm doing. You know, reach out to me, and I'll make sure that you know, and you can just get a perspective, and you know, just yeah, no, I welcome you to come in and do anything that I'm doing. Absolutely.
I will take you up on that offer for sure.
Excellent. That's exciting. Deborah, anything for you as far as, you know, I know you said you were retired, but I'm sure you have a unique perspective. Like you mentioned, the radio shows that used to play. Like now, you know, as far as your view on the future of Mime with all these various platforms.
Like I said before, if we had only had all of the computer and the technology that there is today, you know, we would have gone crazy with it. As it is, you know, we did all kinds of experiments on stage where we had a what do you call it? An old
Hologram
slide projector. I can't even remember the name of it, where we would project slides. Everything behind us you could not see because we had a black curtain with a white light behind it. And the only way you could see the images if we moved our body into the image. We were all in white. And then one time we projected an image of ourselves over ourselves. And the only way we knew we were there is there was a blue light that came out of the slide projector right where your pupils are. And that's where we could line up. And then we came to life like in 3D, and the audience went, oh, like that, because
You're
all of a sudden,
revolutionary, Deborah. You're revolutionary.
oh, honey, you have no idea what we did. We did everything. Anyway, what it's done for me as a retired person, being able to see people and connect with people online, it's bringing me back into this world and connecting me with people all over. I mean, back in the day, the only way I could connect with my friends in Denmark or Cuba, or we did a 10-city tour of Mexico. The only way I could connect with those people was very tedious by letters. Maybe we'd send tapes. The only recordings I have are old, different types of video recordings, which now luckily the university has the ability to convert, you know, to digitize everything. But I just see nothing but great things. I think people look at technology and they get afraid of it, but really technology is a tool, as we all know. And you can use it to create in whatever way you want to create and in whatever combinations. The only Zoom thing that I did with Mime, my student who has had to convert all of her teaching to electronic teaching, decided that she would have a Zoom meeting of mimes. So she got a bunch of people to dress up, you know, like Amanda, probably you do for church, you know, and wear the classic white face. And then we all got on and did a Zoom meeting in total silence. And we had people getting up, you know, to go use the bathroom. And I was drinking wine and, you know, getting drunk, and everybody had a different character, but there was no sound. And it was hilarious. And we did a recording of it.
Like unmute. You guys gotta unmute. You're muted.
I'm muted.
No, I was just saying, was there anyone?
Right. Well, we also had the conversation going on. So we would be writing things at the same time and saying, I can't hear you, or, you know, could you, I mean, all kinds of crap. We just, you know, it was a lot of fun. Anyway, that's a little thing. But Amanda, I also wanted to address you for a minute. You know, all of us start out somehow, and we maybe had one teacher that sparked our interest. And then we did a little bit more. And then like I ventured out into kabuki or Japanese theater. And I've had workshops with clowns. I went to a conference in Mexico, and, you know, there were people across the spectrum. When I've done workshops in Europe, and I went to 2 mime camps in Poland, there were people that had techniques and were doing clowning or old-fashioned type vaudeville performing, and it explodes your mind. So I would say to you, keep studying, and you are also no different than any one of us who taught mime over the years, because you can only offer to other people what you have to offer, and then they in turn will offer back to you, and your teaching will grow in the same way that your art form grows. And you should never feel funny about teaching because you have limited knowledge. Your job is to expand your knowledge and to pass that on to the younger generation. And you're already on your way. And I would never feel funny about passing on what you know or like Michelle says, you know, passing on what you've learned from others, because that's how we all learn. That's the way it goes.
Thank you so much.
And I want to add to this that you are lucky you are living in this generation when you basically all information it's acceptable. You just Google, YouTube away, which is so much easier. Where I or my generation or older, we were teaching from the teachers itself and books, for example, because we're supposed to read certain kind of books and stuff like that, which is right now I can put audiobook and it goes in my brain, or I can see a different arts where in my country I had only 3 channels to watch. And I'm lucky if it's once in the bloom, they show some pantomime there or something interesting, you know what I mean? So it was minimalistic, minimum knowledge in work. Here you have all access. So right now you have just, you know, YouTube it, read it.
Yeah,
and
I
there's
love
so
the
much
fact
stuff.
that nowadays you can search a hashtag on any platform and it can be, it'll pop up. And one of the hashtags
Yeah.
I follow is Mime on Instagram. It's terrific. But Amanda, you wanted to say something?
No, yeah, I was just gonna say that's so true. I even like before this forum, I did some research even on the internet just to get just a little bit more background history about mime within the church. Because like I said, I was so young when I did get that instruction. So I had to just get a refresher, but that's so true. And this really does make me feel even more employed to, you know, dive deeper into the research.
I do
thank
have
you.
to say,
Yeah.
one thing is you're elder though.
Okay.
Don't stick with just the mime form or the venue, the platform that you know with this mime with church, because that's going to limit your knowledge base. If you want to learn about, if you want to study the Bible and deliver God's word, that's one thing, and that's one course of study. But to really study your art form, you need to look, because that will expand your ability to do what you want to do. Don't cut yourself off because it's not church related. You know, that would be like me saying, you know, I'm not interested in something because I don't particularly do that myself. What you want to do is learn from everybody and pick and choose what will work in collaboration with the people that you collaborate with.
And
Absolutely.
I think it's wonderful that Michelle, you've met Michelle, you know, and that clearly through things like this, we can start to build a better network. And
Yes.
I'm so
educate.
happy to meet all of you. And I hope, you know, we have each other's emails and we can stay in touch and, you know, ideas and histories that we didn't get to touch on or questions. Please stay in contact with each other. I can't tell you, it's been wonderful to, you know, be in the room with all of you. It's one of our, I'm going to say it, one of our best panels just because of how everybody is so unique from each other. It's nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with the artists that are on this screen. And I want to thank you for your time and your devotion to this art form and to continuation of whatever it is that you're doing and to keep strong. I mean, I've needed a lot of external strength builders and I feel so inspired by all of your stories today. So everybody that's watching, thank you for joining us. And please, you know, on this post on Facebook, post any questions, friend each other as needed. That's the environment. And check out everybody's platforms that they mentioned. And that, you know, oh, I had a question, Deborah, will your work eventually be accessible online to the public or just through the students?
No. Oh, yes. This will be an archive. And they not only are archiving, I mean, this was like a gift from heaven because I just downsized from a very large house with a very large garden and all the where I raised my family to a small place. And, you know, I was going through all my papers and I'm like, who's going to want this stuff? But I also, like I mentioned, I had very old platforms, you know, digital record, not digital, but analog recordings that some of the machines don't even exist anymore to be able to play them on. What an archive can do for you is they have all the equipment because they're used to digitizing forms that had been on an old platform. So eventually, once it's digitized, all you would have to do is just Google my name. And the other thing I was going to say, they didn't just want my time with the United Mime Worker. They wanted my high school career before I went to college. And then they wanted my career post United Mime Workers when I was doing solo performance. So they really, because they said, even though we were associated with the university under the name of the United Mime Workers, when the archivists go to archive something, they have to recognize that you have an entirety of your life, your entire career. And it's not just the career that you had associated with that particular institution. So therefore, they wanted everything. And I'm like, it was a gift. It was really.
Oh, good. Yeah, especially dealing with moving to a smaller environment. Absolutely.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's exciting. And everybody here has information online to look at. And I'm really hopeful that everybody here, you know, made new connections. And I'm so honored to have, you know, been able to, you know, we have been able to supply a platform for the voices of women in physical theater, mime, and the theater of expression. What was that phrase, Deborah? You said the
Gestural. I call it gestural theater.
gestural theater. Gestural theater.
And by that, I mean, you know, a lot of us have used all kinds of sounds, sound effects. Those are big in clowning. We use music to background. I've even had pieces where I recorded the narration and that goes on top, or we split things apart or whatever. But it's primarily based on getting the point across through gestures. And everything else is kind of in service to that, works together with that. But yeah, I would call it gestural theater.
Gestural theater. Well, thank you again. Does anybody have any parting piece of
I wanna
something they can get to say? No?
Yes, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you guys with you.
Nice meeting everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Michelle, so
thank you
proud
for
of you.
being
Keep
on
going.
this. Thank you for
Michelle, keep
doing
keep
that.
going,
That's great.
girl.
Amanda, I'll be looking out for you. Send me a message.
That's
I'll be
good.
contacting you.
Okay.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Bye, guys.
Well, have a great rest of your Sunday, everybody, and everybody watching. Thank you so much for tuning in and spread the word on these chats. Thank you. And signing off, I'm Cat Gasta with Michelle Matlock, Deborah Langerman, Amanda Faison, and Irina Tsikurishvili, Women in Mime. Let's see. There. Okay, so we're off. Oh, no. Stop live stream.